Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. Of course, we know that the judgment as far as the £190 million case is in. We've seen some of the comments being made since yesterday. There's a lot that is on social media also. We'll be talking about this verdict and what it means as far as the rule of law is concerned, what it means for the future of the PTI as a political party, of course under the leadership of the former Prime Minister. And we'll also be talking about the overall effect of this verdict on the negotiations that were earlier being held between the government and the opposition. We've seen the press conferences, we've also seen the government talk about how this verdict is actually rule of law being enforced and justice being done, but we've also seen what the other side is saying. We'll be talking about all of this and what it means for the future of these negotiations, these talks that were earlier on being held between all political parties. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Muhammad Ali Rashid, who is with the PPP. He's also spokesperson Sindh government. Thank you for joining us today. We also have with us Zahid Gishkori, who's a senior journalist, and Barrister Safiullah, Ghauri, who's a legal expert. Thank you for being with us. We'll also have other guests during the course of the program. I'm going to start with Ali here. Ali, can you hear me? Ali? I think
yes, I can hear you.
Ji, Ali, we're talking about this verdict and what it means overall. What does the PPP say? Of course, we've had some of the comments that have come in as far as the rule of law is concerned, as far as justice is concerned. We saw the minister, as far as the PMLN overall is concerned. Of course, how do you look at things at this point now that it's in? And we know that the sentence that have been awarded both to the former Prime Minister and his wife, Bushra Bibi.
I feel that yes, the rule of law has been upheld, and I think both the sides gave their arguments, and it was pretty much an open and shut case. It is very clear that some money which was supposed to come to the state of Pakistan was then diverted towards a business or real estate tycoon's account, which was supposed to be for something else. So that money was not given to Pakistan, and it did indeed actually cause losses to the national exchequer. If that money, £190 million, was actually, it was a loss. If you keep seeing statements from the PTI leadership, they're saying that there was no loss to the national exchequer, and there was no benefit to Mr. Khan or Bushra Bibi. So this is not a fair case. When, in fact, if you actually look at the facts, they're pretty transparent. If that money was supposed to be for the state of Pakistan, is but being adjusted in some real estate tycoon's account as a fine, so then yes, it is a loss to the national exchequer. Similarly, if that real estate tycoon is gifting you land to start a university or whatever, and giving you furniture and computers, etc., to proceed with it exactly at the same time, right before the transaction and this entire thing happens, then it's pretty evident that why it happened. And there's a saying called fate loves irony. Somebody who used to accuse everybody else of being corrupt has today, by the courts, been proven with evidence that he's involved in corruption, and so is his family and his wife, etc. So, and if not, there are other forums they can challenge the verdict and then take it from there. But otherwise, I feel even if because I was actually looking at this case very closely. I do have a legal background. So if you see the arguments given by the defense, they were not even discussing the merits or the demerits of this case. All they kept saying is that it is politically motivated. I mean, if there were some facts and figures or some laws or anything or procedure according to which they could prove that no, this was a very fair transaction, or everything was done very, very transparently.
But let me interject here. There have been numerous verdicts in this country fortunately or unfortunately, as far as, which have later been held to be politically motivated. And that is what the PTI as a political party is really making this, like you said. And, of course, so, to take away from the legal angle in this manner, and then, how does one, and then how will it impact your talks or the government's talks with the PTI, this verdict now?
I feel, and I personally feel, that it shouldn't have an impact, negative or otherwise, with the talks, because I think if you look at Khan Saab and the talks he's having with the media, he's like, I was expecting this. And if anything, I feel that Khan Saab would have not preferred that it would have come in his favor, because then that might give the impression that he's struck a deal with the powers that may be, and that's why he's gotten off the hook. He's pretty pleased that the verdict has come against him. They will challenge it in the higher courts and relevant forums, which is fine. I mean, they're entitled to their opinion, and I do understand they have a political narrative to push. So their statements are welcome. I think that it's their point of view. But the courts think otherwise, and we think otherwise. So I think let's agree to disagree.
Let me go to Zahid Gishkori Saab, and then I'll come back to you. Zahid Saab, can you hear me? Ji, Zahid Saab? There seems to be a problem with audio. Ali, as far as as far as the talks are concerned, we saw earlier on there were a lot of comments being made, and we know that about the establishment, and the PTI was pleased with them having access to, it seems, the establishment. Do you think that now there will, like you said, you don't think that there's going to be any it won't have any impact on these talks? So then the phase 2 or 3, or how will it proceed, and what kind of a timeline do you anticipate?
I think they'll move forward like they're scheduled to move forward, and there won't be any hindrance in it. I think even after the verdict has come, both the sides are still in talks, and everything is going just as planned. Nothing has changed. Something which is welcome is, unlike earlier, where Khan Saab has been very vocal and very blunt in name calling and putting blame on people. This time, all he said, "Oh, it was expected, and I didn't expect anything else." But this time, he didn't take any names. This time, he didn't blame any, the establishment or any other political party as such. He said, "Oh, it was expected," and obviously he was not happy about it, and he said, "I'm innocent." But this time, there was a change of attitude and behavior. When he spoke to the media, he didn't blame anybody. So I think that's a positive sign that he's showing some political maturity.
I think that's an interesting point. Let me go to Waseem Abbasi Saab. He's a senior journalist. Waseem Saab, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
We were talking about the 190 million verdict, the case verdict, of course, and an interesting point that Ali Rashid raised is that the reaction that the former Prime Minister has shown is in fact much less inflammatory. He seems to have been, he seems to have accepted the verdict while saying that, this is what he thought would happen. He's been, instead of calling names, instead of involving people, instead of, name calling, which unfortunately we've seen him do in the past. Do you think that it means that as far as the government and the opposition is concerned, things are moving on schedule, and he has some confidence whether that this will be overturned on appeal? What is behind this, in your opinion?
Well, first of all, I think the case was very solid. The case, the way the case was prosecuted, it took around 1 year and 37 witnesses were presented. I think this is the most solid case against Imran Khan of all cases that we have seen so far in last 2 years. This was the one case that could be proven in any court of the world, because it is an open and shut case that the money has come to Pakistan. That was a public money. It was sent to property tycoons' account. without any lawful authority, and the cabinet was used, sealed, envelope was approved by the cabinet. So, and also there is a conflict of interest, a very clear conflict of interest that the former Prime Minister was made trustee of Al-Qadr Trust, and he got the benefit to the tune of around 1 billion rupees from the same person who got favor in the cabinet. So the case is also very solid. So I don't think this case is defendable in the public court also. One of the reasons why his response was weak this time could be this one, but the other thing, as far as the talks are concerned, yes, this time around, the talks are serious, and you can see that Khan Sahib even welcomed the meeting between Barrister Ghauri and the leadership of the army. So it means that his tone is also conciliatory, increasingly become conciliatory, and I think the reason behind this is that he has played all his cards, like the final call and the civil disobedience and public mobilization and everything, the inqilab. It all has failed. So he has limited options. So all he has is these talks. So I think, yes, this time around he is serious in talks also, and the party was largely expecting this decision. The decision was writing on the wall because the case was clear. They could not defend the case. The lawyers of the former Prime Minister could not defend the case in the court of law, as was very obvious. We have all seen. So, the conciliatory tone is due to these reasons, I think.
But Waseem Sahib, there is also, something interesting as far as whether we agree with the verdict and whether it is, if we don't know what will happen in appeal. But at this time, isn't it true that it raises interesting points about the style of governance when we look at this judgment, the way that it's come in, about the style of governance of PTI as a political party under the leadership of the former Prime Minister, the way that certain deviations were made, the way that certain loopholes have been exposed as far as the governance, the style of governance is concerned, like the cabinet issue that you've just spoken about, the misuse of funds, the way that you've spoken about, the way that the whole issue was dealt with, and there are of course other people involved in the judgment, and it doesn't, while of course they have the right to defend themselves, it speaks volumes about that also, does it not, in your opinion?
Absolutely. The style of governance, we all know that he was he was taking very high moral grounds when he was in opposition, and he said he will eliminate corruption in 90 days in Pakistan. But we all have seen that the corruption index was high during his era, especially during his years in the governance. Also, we have seen the style of governance, when there was any crisis in Pakistan and around the world, he would call the meeting of the spokesperson instead of calling the meeting of disaster team or anything else. So the focus was on narrative building instead of governance. And that is why he failed to deliver during his 3.5 years of the government. The economy was faltering, everybody knew it, and he keep calling people, don't fret, this will be over soon, but he failed to deliver. And also we have seen how he chose his team. He prided himself in actually selecting the team. He said, I am a captain, I know how to build the team, but what was his team? Man Buzdars and others we have seen that left him immediately after he was out of power. So, and they could not deliver in Punjab, in the province like Punjab. I mean, Usman Guzar's governance was evident. Everybody knew what he delivered, and he was not capable of ruling such a big province. So, and the style of governance, yes, because the people testified in front of the court, like Zubaida Jalal, the Pervez Khattak, and his own former principal secretary Azam Khan, they have testified in the government. What was his style in the cabinet? The cabinet was forced to approve this, despite some people asking him to wait and open the envelope so that they know what they are approving of. So yes, and we all have seen how the corruption was eliminated during his era. What was the state of corruption? Now there are so many scandals are coming out. So yes, his governance was as bad as it could be in any Pakistani under any Pakistani government.
Right, fair enough. Thank you for joining us, Waseem Abbasi Saab. Thank you for your time. I'm going to go to Ali again. And Ali, there is, if you've heard what Waseem Abbasi Saab is saying, as far as the PPP is concerned, as far as the PMLN is concerned, we've seen, as far as PTI as a political party is concerned, they continue to hold a kind of higher moral ground, at least in front of their followers still. How does this judgment impact that, in your opinion? Ali? Ali, can you hear me? Ali, can you hear me? We'll be taking a short break, after which we'll come back and talk more about the verdict in the Al Qadir case and what it means overall for the future of all political parties and the negotiations henceforth. We have with us Barrister Safiullah Ghauri. Safiullah, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Right, thank you for joining us all the way from Sao Paulo, I believe, if I'm pronouncing it right. Okay. Safiullah, we've been talking about the verdict of the £190 million case, and we've, even before this verdict has come, we've spoken about certain issues with, as far as the judgment is concerned. How do you look at this judgment as a lawyer, in terms of its strengths and the fact that, the reaction also that we've seen of the former Prime Minister, it's less, inflammatory. He hasn't taken any other names. He hasn't, a lot of the name calling that is usual after a decision comes in is clearly absent here. How do you look at those things? Let's start with the decision itself.
So the way I look at it, it's basically an open and shut case. Everybody knew that from the get-go. From the documentary evidence, we knew for a fact that there was the very clear paper trail that was establishing the line of corruption. So we didn't really have to think too much in terms of the merits of the case. But even if you look at it procedurally, Mahrukh, the government presented 35 witnesses. Those 35 witnesses included people who were the closest people to Imran Khan himself. People like the former Chief Minister Pervez Khattak, people like his Principal Secretary Azam Khan, people which include the Chief Financial Officer of Al Qadir Trust University itself. All of these people testified against Imran Khan. Imran Khan, in his defense, gave a list of 12 people that he wanted to come and stand as his witnesses, and not one of them came. And apart from those 12 people that Imran Khan, the defense, had given as a witness list, apart from that, the people who were co-accused along with Imran Khan, some of the main players in this party, none of them came forward for Imran Khan. Not one person. And we see that even right after the judgment. The judgment came out, and right after that, PTI gave a call for the public to come out. And I mean, I'm not aware of anyone who's come out. You're in Islamabad right now. Maybe you know if any tweets have been blocked or not. But to my knowledge, nobody has come out for him. And I think Imran Khan has now finally realized that there are people who will not stand by him in the court. His own people will betray him at the first chance that they get. And it's not even about betrayal. It's just about doing the right thing. Because these people knew that Imran Khan is not going to support them, so they are paying him in kind. And we see that now the government does not care. In fact, very interesting. Mr. Ghauri was asked if the negotiations with the government will continue. And he shrugged it off and he said, yes, this judgment has nothing to do with the negotiations will proceed as normal. So this goes on to show that nobody within PTI is owning him up. And that is the reason why he does not have the capacity to give inflammatory reactions anymore, because I think he's basically now resigning to the fate of the fact that he is no longer popular within his own party, within his own people, and that, as far as this case was concerned, it was the writing on the wall.
As far as, the PTI as a political party is concerned, he, even as the former Prime Minister himself, he is clearly saying that this is a politically motivated judgment. That is what they're saying. And, of course, that they were expecting this. So that's the stance of the PTI. as a political party. In terms, if you look at the way that this verdict shows that there were clearly issues, the way that all of this came about, the way that the money was transferred, it's certainly irregular at the very least. What does it expose as a lawyer, in your opinion?
So, it's once again a very, very good question. What are PTI's defenses to begin with? I'll tell you the defenses that PTI took in this judgment. In this judgment, it's very funny. Imran Khan, in fact, himself admitted that there was some problem with the way the money was handled. He himself has said that he understands that there was something wrong, something illegal that was done. But his defense as per his defense statement, which you can read in the judgment as well, and the judge has pointed it out, is that he did it for the greater good of the country. The greater good of the country being that he would set up a university with Al-Qaeda Trust, and Imran Khan in his own witness statement then elaborated that he was going to give free education with that money. And that's just nonsensical, right? Like, you don't get to do corruption and then say that, oh, I was going to spend it later on deserving people. Because the judgment also clarifies that Al-Qaeda Trust University, the very charter of the university was set up after he had taken the money. So leaving aside the fact that, do
you think it's being given a Robin Hood kind of color as far as, the judgment itself is concerned?
So what is he trying to do? He's trying to say that this is a politically motivated case, that, I was going to do it for the poor people. And last but not least, I find it extremely funny that PTI official is constantly trying to say that this judgment was preconceived because Meher Bukhari, a journalist, had stated that he'll get 14 years. Well, it's very funny because, I don't know why they're trying to target Meher Bukhari. Almost everyone who has come on your show, Mahrukh, must have already said that he'll get 14 years. Anybody who can read the law knows that he was going to get 14 years. So there was nothing extraordinary about Meher Bukhari's prediction that he was going to get 14 years. The whole country and all the lawyers were already saying that. Anybody who was, in any manner closely watching the case knew that this was going to happen. But, apart from that, obviously, this is going to be their defense, Mano. This is what they're going to say. They're going to say that this is politically motivated. They're going to say that this was, money that was going to go to the poor people, not to Imran Khan himself. But the reality is that this is how corruption operates. You cannot take money and then say that, I intended to distribute half of it to poor people, and then try and pretend like you did it for charity. Corruption is corruption, and that's just all that there is to it. Corruption can have no other meaning if you took money illegally. And in this particular case, it's very obvious. It's very clear. Imran Khan himself admitted that he took money illegally. Al-Qaeda Trust University was set up after the money was taken illegally. And to say that I was later going to spend it on poor people is just making a mockery and a fool out of the Pakistani public.
Let me come back to you, Safiullah. We want to talk a little bit more in detail about, this case and what it means. I'm going to go to Ali Rashid. Ali, as far as the PTI is concerned, the way that, the role of the establishment is being applauded by them as far as these negotiations are concerned, do you think that it is, as far as the talks are concerned, do you think that, perhaps because they have always, maintained that they want the establishment to be involved, perhaps we are more closer to reaching a kind of some sort of a working relationship with the opposition than ever before?
Yeah, I feel, because I think the establishment, the government, even the opposition right now, who now wants integration. Everybody wants people to still not part of the process. That thing can come out of this side. I think everybody is willing to talk, but at the same time, trying to remind each other realistic demands, the expectations. Let's manage the expectations, because there are some things which can be done, there are some can't be done, and some things which we can look into.
What is the most, in your opinion, what is the most promising condition that you feel that the government can perhaps acquiesce on?
I'm not too sure what's the most promising condition which can happen, but look, there are ways around it, right? Look, in my opinion, doable is a very, it's a matter of perspective. In the past, a lot of things have happened, and the law has been changed. There are ways where people can be, given pardon. There are NROs, etc., etc. So things can happen, and I want to keep an open mind, and I want to be positive, and I whatever happens, I just want it to happen for the greater good of the country. But here, I would like to come back to the case we were discussing earlier.
Ji.
And now PTI can say anything they want about it, but do you know that people in the NCA in the UK, the National Crime Agency, have reports from London that because it was mishandled from their side, and NCA felt it was very embarrassing for them that they, instead of sending the money to the state of Pakistan, they sent it to the Supreme Court, and whatever happened, which is clearly wrong. People who actually signed it off from the NCA's end are now being investigated. They've been transferred. Some of them have been suspended. So if this was so legit and there's nothing wrong and everything is politically motivated in Pakistan, then whatever happened, what's going on in UK, the kind of things which are going on there. So, do you understand? So when they found out that this is what's happened, money which was supposed to go to the state of Pakistan was actually adjusted, and the benefit was given to a real estate tycoon, and it was adjusted in a fine which he had to pay the Supreme Court. When NCA found out about this, it became very embarrassing for them. And these are reports from London, from their news. And the officers which actually signed off the deal or the transfer are now being investigated. They've been suspended. So it's just not in Pakistan, it's also in UK. So I think it's about time we should wake up and smell the coffee, that whatever happened did happen, and it was not right in any way. And it's been proven in the court also. Moving forward, I feel the talks won't be affected. I think because even before the verdict, if you heard, both the sides had mentioned that no matter what the verdict is, talks will go on. So I think that's a good sign that both the sides are being being a good sport about it. And I think PTI especially should be a good sport about it, considering their leader is a sportsman, show some sportsman spirit. But yeah.
Right. Let me come back to you. Safiullah, there is, as far as the judgment itself, do you think, even though there are certain things that are very clear in terms of illegalities and all, like you are saying, do you think that there are lacunas? Because a lot of the legal team, as far as the PTI is concerned, there's also a lot of talk about how there are a lot of lacunas or there are a lot of loopholes in the judgment.
So I've, in fact, Mahrukh, been trying to research on the lacunas in this judgment myself. I mean, it's always good to be a person who's critical of the law and try and figure out where possible mistakes could have been made. And on that end, I've also been actively following the social media accounts of all PTI lawyers. These include Mahrukh Hameed and various other lawyers who are closely affiliated with PTI, because in my opinion, they would have also picked out certain lacunas, so to speak, within the judgment. Everything and anything that they have said so far is towards saying that this was a politically motivated judgment. They have problems with, there is one lacuna perhaps that one can point out, which is that sufficient notices were not given before the arrest. That's, normally it's a tradition of the NAB to give several notices to any individual before they are arrested.
That is more technical, right? That doesn't have anything to do with the judgment itself.
But even if you were to look at it from the perspective of technicality, there is a background to it, which is that Imran Khan, when given a notice, does not respect a notice, and he does not come to the court, which was what happened. If you remember, there was the people had to go to Banigala to arrest him, and they were attacked with petrol bombs and various other things. So that's one of the reasons why notice requirements were fulfilled, but let's say customary amounts of notices were not issued. Certain leeways were not given because of the kind of person that Imran Khan is. But other than that, I'm not aware of anything that has been said by PTI lawyers themselves. They themselves are responsible for putting up a solid defense, at least pointing out where the judges erred. I don't see that as yet, and maybe you have seen it. I don't know. Have you?
But overall, in your opinion, in acceptance of the verdict, and they're saying that they were expecting this, so it's nothing out of the ordinary. They're also saying that they're going to continue the negotiations. So you think, Ali is saying that there have been times we've seen that settlements have been reached in the history of this country, and that is just a fact. So they're perhaps angling for that kind of a solution to this problem then, in your opinion?
That is absolutely correct. That is absolutely correct, because once again, even if you look at the defenses that were presented by PTI within the case, those defenses were all very whimsical. Those defenses were along the lines of, oh, he was the Prime Minister, he has authority to do that, he was doing that for the common good. There was no real defense as to why this happened to begin with. And because the lawyers, at least within PTI, know that there is no plausible defense that they can take, that is why they're all stuck right now. And I honestly think that their best bet is a political settlement of some sort. Maybe get out with an NRO, some extraordinary relief along the lines of sending him out of the country. Maybe something of that sort could happen. But I don't see a lot of relief coming for him. And things will become clear when they file an appeal to the High Court. One thing that I also want to point out is it's very funny that there has been no appeal filed to the High Court yet, which means that they obviously had not prepared for this.
That's interesting also. And also they've said that, as far as the appeal is concerned, they're going to be expecting that, this appeal should be taken up. We know that the government has said that the appeal should be taken up in the normal course of things, because things as far as the PTI is concerned, we know, are not done in that time. Traditionally, we've seen as far as the cases are concerned. And what is your opinion on that?
I completely agree with you. I think because PTI has the sense of entitlement, where they believe that their cases should be treated in a manner that is entirely different from that of any other ordinary Pakistani, and it is necessary for the government to assert that every person in this country is equal and all cases are equal. And if they're going to be setting up precedents like they're setting up good precedents right now of misuse of authority being punished, then the procedure and the process should also be the same. I fully support the idea of their cases being treated just as normal cases.
And what is the normal timeline for this kind of an appeal to be heard in the High Court?
You know better than I do.
I'd like you to answer the question.
Yes. It's a NAB case, so I think it's going to still get covered. For a normal NAB case, it would probably get resolved in maybe 1 year in the Islamabad High Court. But I think if it was a normal NAB case, we can still expect that Imran Khan would be in the jail, given whatever Islamabad High Court says, for at least the next 6 months. I don't see him going anywhere.
What about the bail process now? After the suspension of sentence or bail process, how do you look at that? Do you think that they're going to try?
No, why? So he's convicted now, Mahrukh. So they'll have to go first, get the judgment suspended. Only then can they go for the bail. So right now, I don't think they have any chance of getting anything. I think they've exhausted all of their means, and they know that. This is something that everybody knows within PTI as well, that they don't have many cards left. And once again, as was said earlier, that their best bet is now to come to a political negotiation. Their other hope was that maybe Trump would have said something, done something. I also see it's very funny that all across social media, PTI fans are just tagging Donald Trump and Richard Grenell, asking them to intervene, and even they are not saying anything about it. That's the surprising thing. Richard Grenell, who was posting about 18 times a day in support of PTI, is now quiet. So I think this was a sort of death knell to the overall narrative that PTI has been trying to build up.
Fair enough. Ali, can you hear me? Ali, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you now. Ali, overall, as far as, we know that they have a certain number of seats. We know that they're part of the opposition. We know that, the government wants certainty. And because of that, they want some kind of an agreement with the PTI. At this time, as far as like we were earlier talking about, in terms of the doables, of course, when they say that they want investigations in certain cases, or they want, as far as political prisoners are concerned, all of those things that don't relate to the judicial system, those kind of conditions can certainly be worked on. And do you think that overall, as far as the timeline is concerned, if we look at this, the meetings that have been held and the way that the reaction that is coming, do you think that perhaps within months we could see some kind of an agreement come out, regardless of this case?
Absolutely. I think even sooner than that, something could be worked out. I think if both the sides are being a bit practical, I think, there was talk about making commission about May 9. Then, from the other side, they said a matter which is in court and it's already been investigated.
Because we were earlier looking at things like house arrest that were said, and then, they were quickly, of course, the government said that nothing like that had been on the table. And that, it was about, the security and of course, what the law allowed. So things like that do you think it's possible at all? Of course, it has to be done under the umbrella of what's legally possible also, and now the judgment is there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in Pakistan, anything is possible. I think even legally and constitutionally, there is space and there are ways to go about the thing, but I think guarantees need to be given from both the sides. For example, we can give some relaxation to PTI or even the leader, but provided they stick to their word. I think the only problem the government has with the PTI is trust deficit, because no matter what they say, 2 days later things they just turn around. For example, they're having talks, and you'll suddenly see this tweet or this message on X from the PTI leader saying really harsh things about the establishment and the ruling party. So, and this is while the talks are going on. So it's a bit baffling, and people are just confused, including the parties. I mean, here you agreed to talk, you're on the table, and the talks are out of nowhere. This tweet comes, and you just throw things off.
Right. Thank you so much for being with us. Ali Rashid, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being with us. Barrister Safiullah Ghauri, thank you for joining us. The question overall, as far as the Al-Qadir Trust, is that it also raises some interesting questions about accountability. It also raises some interesting questions about certain systemic flaws that exist within Pakistan, certain deviations from procedure which we've seen. Regardless of what happens in appeal, as far as this case is concerned, does it not make a case for greater transparency? Does it not make a case for greater impartiality as far as, the way governance is done, the way things are structured, and of course greater accountability for all concerned? We've also seen, of course, PTI as a political party to hold itself rather in a grandiose position as far as accountability is concerned, as far as their honesty is concerned, credibility is concerned. And in that sense, this case and the judgment itself also exposes certain flaws. It exposes certain flaws in governance. It exposes certain flaws within the system that perhaps is something that need overall reflection on. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.